Reading of Brendan Dassey trial transcripts day 2, continuing on page 68, where Attorney Freeman is about to cross-examine Heimerl. Okay. Judge, I think the state wanted to, didn't you want to include 115 in that offer? Attorney Kratz, we did. The court, right. No objection to 115. Attorney Freeman, no. The court received. Go ahead, Mr. Freeman. Thank you. Cross-examination by Attorney Freeman. Agent Heimerl, correct? That's correct. Yes, thank you. Okay, you were testifying about the burn barrel in your direct, and I have what's up, I have up on the screen again what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 80 or 95. It's a photograph of that burn barrel. Is that correct? That's correct. You can see it from there? Yes, sir. Okay, now this is the barrel you indicated that you first did a visual observation without going into the barrel itself, and noted metal and glass within the debris? Yes, I did. And I think you indicated you also visually identified the Motorola cell phone? I could see that component, that cover piece with the very distinctive Motorola M on it, and that was on top of the debris. I could see that. Okay, now looking at that burn barrel, the location is approximately in front of the Avery trailer, or I guess if you want to say kind of a triangular angle from the trailer and the garage, correct? That's correct. It's almost due north of the garage and northeast of the trailer. So that would be that opening, the actual main entrance of the garage? Correct. On the barrel, can you see from where you're at, or do you have the picture in front of you? Both, correct. Okay, does it appear to have bullet holes in the barrel? I know you're not an expert I'm not asking about your expertise in the area of firearms or ammunition, but you're an agent, correct? Yes, I am. You fired a firearm? Yes, I have. Familiar with what a bullet hole might look like? Yes. Does it appear that, like it has bullet holes in the barrel? All I can say is that there are circular penetrations in the barrel. Okay, and I don't need you to go any further if you don't have ability to tell whether or not that's from a bullet or something else. But appears to have some sort of circular indentation in the side. Yes. Now, in the burn area, you actually found shell casings, correct? In the material that came from the burn pit to the burn area, yes, there were ammunition. There were ammunition casings found. Did you find the same when you sifted through the barrel? I did not examine the debris from this barrel. So someone else sifted through the burn barrel? That's correct. Your observations were just visual? Of what? The burn barrel. That's correct. When you sifted, through the burn area now, we're beyond the burn barrel, did you actually set up the procedure for sifting through that burn area? I did not. It was Special Agent Pevito had an idea in his mind as to what procedure he wanted to follow. He presented that to those of us that were there, and we all agreed that appeared to be a sound and good procedure to follow. Now, you indicate that your primary expertise with the DCI would be in arson investigations. That's correct. So you're familiar with going through charred remains, like, for instance, buildings? Correct. Would a burn area like this be unusual for you in your investigation expertise or experience? No, it wouldn't. In fact, I've participated in examinations of burn areas, or burn pit areas, if you will, on at least one other occasion, looking for similar types of evidence. When you set up the investigation, or the actual sifting then through this burn area, did you set it up where you indicated some sort of grid-like procedure so you could identify what location items had been taken out of or boxed when you were digging out and putting it into something to take back to the crime lab? You may be misunderstood only because it was not, I don't think I was asked earlier, but to clarify, when the material and burn debris and soil and material was removed from the burn pit, and initial examinations were conducted at the burn pit, I was not present and involved in it. I was, at that time, during that first week, was involved in the neighborhood canvas aspect. Okay. The examination of the debris that I testified under direct exam was conducted after all of the material had been removed from the Avery property in various containers and brought to the crime laboratory. That's where that examination was completed. So your sifting involvement would have been at the crime lab? At the crime lab and at Calumet County Sheriff's Department, yes. In regards to your involvement with this investigation, were you aware of what type of sifting or the procedure that went on actually at the burn area? No, I was not. When you went through the items that were taken to the crime lab, were they in separate boxes, or how were they stored and transported to the crime lab? When we examined the debris at the crime lab, it was on the first 2 dates, December 19 and 20 of 2005. The majority of that material, I recall, came out of large tarps. The material had been placed on large tarps and then secured or taped closed. If you take, say, a bed sheet and bring the corners up, twist it and turn it and secure it with tape, that's how it was brought to the crime lab. On the second occasion, in April of 2006, the majority of the debris that we examined on that occasion was in individual 5-gallon plastic buckets. Okay, were they labeled as to where they were taken from the burn area or the burn pit? I know that they were labeled. The buckets in particular, and the tarps for that matter, I believe were labeled as to where they were collected from, but I was not involved in the actual collection of that material. Were you involved later in the process of organizing that in some sort of a diagram of where each items were found within the burn pit itself? No. So you wouldn't have no idea where items might have been located in the burn pit? No. Are you aware of whether every item that was in that burn pit was brought to the crime lab and reviewed by you or your crew of techs? I believe that it's my understanding that all of the material that was removed, all burned and soil material that was removed from the Avery property, was examined by an investigator over the course of those 4 days, as well as prior to that. I believe Special Agent Pevito had done some examinations with other agents. I say that because I know that it was our goal to visually examine and go through all of the debris that came out of the burn pit, as well as other areas, as I alluded to, stated was in the buckets. And when that was finished, when we went through all of that material, it was my understanding everything had been done. Did you receive, or do you recall, as one item that was brought to the crime lab, a burned out van seat? I was not involved in the examination of that. Okay, so you didn't personally investigate or review that van seat? No, I did not. Do you recall, though, if it was actually at the crime lab when your team was reviewing going through the sift or sifting through the burn area buckets to determine if there were bones or, I think you mentioned, metal objects? I don't know if it was there or not. When you were sifting through, you indicated that at some times there were a forensic anthropologist there to assist in determining whether something might be a suspect bone fragment or something that she might be interested in looking at, correct? Correct. As the crime lab technicians, including yourself, went through and sifted, you're going through dirt, correct? It's dirt and then ash. Were you using anything like a brush or a water bottle to clean off items that you thought were suspected evidence? I'm sorry, you said a brush and a what? A brush or some sort of like a water jar, squeeze water to clean the item off? No, we did not use any water rinsing. And basically it came down to the preference of the investigator as to if they preferred to use it just do this process just with their hands, or if they preferred to use a wooden skewer or a pick, or if they wished to use a brush or a putty knife. It's personal preference, but some of those instruments were used. Okay, no one, this may sound silly, no one was told, go ahead, blow on it, get rid of the dust or the dirt. No. Okay, that could potentially contaminate that with that investigator's saliva, correct? I believe that's a potential. So you guys sat down and talked about what procedures you're going to take in sifting through these buckets and the bags of debris taken from the area before you actually started the sifting? Correct. You mentioned that you were involved on the team on approximately March 1, or maybe it was on March 1, 2006 in the Avery garage. Yes, it was March 1 and 2. And 2nd. And I believe you indicated that the search itself was somewhat methodical. One person went in and videotaped the garage first? Correct. And then how many were on your team searching? On March 1, it was 4 individuals. And on March 2, one additional, Agent Roswell, joined us. Did you videotape the actual search itself? No. Just the before and after? Correct. When you went through the search, you indicated that you started from one corner of the garage and worked your way in a horseshoe around to the other, correct? That's correct. When you first went through the garage, Attorney Fremgen, and if I could ask the state to put up, I believe it's Exhibit 105, the photo of the garage. Do you have State's Exhibit 105 before you? Yes, I do. And again, this is Stephen Avery's garage, correct? On March 1, 2006? Correct. And this is a view after you have opened the garage door, the main overhead door? Correct. Was there a vehicle in the garage when you first arrived there to search the garage? Yes, there was. And you had to remove the vehicle? Yes. How did you get it? Did you drive it, push it out? A tow truck. Okay. Was there someone in the garage watching in case car knocked over a shell casing or moved some item of debris within the garage, just to make a note of that? Yes, we were present in the garage as it was being removed, but vehicle was parked in the garage similar to the way any of us parked a vehicle in the garage. It did not come into contact with anything else as it's being moved. Okay, and removed from the garage, so I don't believe that was a concern. You noticed on the picture, again, I believe it's Exhibit 105, you refer to them as tents or evidence tents. Those are those little cones or numbered cones. Various terms. They could be marking evidence, or they could just be for photographic reference. Okay, some of those don't. Well, let me ask you this: when the car was in the garage, you can see in the picture there seems to be a tire track. Yes, I see that. Like a white tire track in the middle. Yes, that's where that Suzuki was. I don't know that because the vehicle that we removed was not a Suzuki. Oh, I'm sorry. Whatever the vehicle was that was in the garage, that's where that was. It was in that area, in the large open area. If you see if I can point to sure, black object right here, this is an engine hoist. The vehicle was here to the left of it in the open bay. Okay, so there was some items that you located and marked with those yellow tags that weren't covered by the vehicle, correct? I don't know if I understand your question, sir. They weren't concealed. The vehicle wasn't on top of some of the items that you note in this picture, correct? I still don't know if I can answer that, and let me ask it a third way. I'll try a third way. Could you see some of the items when you walked into the garage originally? The videotape, the items I mean would be the ones that you've marked with these yellow cones or tents. Some of these yellow markers, specifically the ones around the back of the garage, are next to circles that are drawn on the concrete floor, and the reason some of these, in particular number 10, appears to be where the car would have been. If I can explain how this occurred, after we entered the garage and videotaped the interior, did a cursory search, and we had identified the presence of the blackjack creeper, we had identified the presence of some paint thinner jugs, and other things that we believed were items that we were going to collect. We also became aware of some of those circles that were on the floor. It was my understanding, I was informed, that those had been placed on the floor by crime lab personnel during a previous search and identified areas that may have luminesced from luminol. So we identified those just for identification purposes that they are here. At that point, we then removed the vehicle, and I felt as long as the vehicle was out of the way, let's take a photograph of where our markers are, and that's why some of these markers, in particular, as I said, number 10 is under the vehicle. Okay, thank you. That clarifies that. So when you did your search on March 1 and into March 2, the only two items I think, that you testified, correct me if I'm wrong, that you would have been new would be number 9 and number 23, the one underneath the compressor that as of yet in this picture isn't marked. I'm sorry, that would have been new? Would have been new items that came to you mentioned that someone else came through and searched previously, correct? In November of 2005. And they circled some areas on the ground and on the pavement in the driveway in the garage, correct? Correct. And you noted those circles, correct? Correct. And you put the little marking next to those little white circles? Correct. That wasn't something that you just found, correct? It was some object or some item that previous search team thought was of interest, correct? Well, to answer your question the way you stated it, it was something that, yes, I did just find because this is the first occasion I had been in the garage. I saw that there were circles, and I was informed that those circles had been placed by crime lab personnel to identify areas that had reacted through luminol. So for the sake of photographic documentation, we placed markers next to those. That does not mean that we specifically collected an item of evidence from, say, marker number 3 or marker number 4. Which items did you actually specifically remove an item of evidentiary value then? Well, this photograph was taken in the early evening hours of March 1, and there was a great deal of searching that took place after this photograph was taken, and many items of evidence were collected after this photograph was taken. As each individual item of evidence was found, or something was identified that we felt was going to be an item of evidence, and we were going to collect it, we would place an evidence photographic marker next to it, photograph it, measure it, and collect it. So there are many numbers that come after the highest number in this photograph. You mentioned there was a prior crime lab taper or crime lab technician that came through, made those circles where you noted had been positive for luminol testing, correct? That's what I was told. What you were told? So someone else went through the garage before you'd gone through the garage on March 1? That's correct. And number 9 on the picture notes apparently a bullet fragment that you found, correct? Correct. And it's in a crack in the pavement of the garage floor? Correct. Okay, so I would assume, correct me if I'm wrong, that someone missed that the first time? I don't know as if I can assume that. All I can say is that on March 1, I happened to be walking in the garage, and I stopped and I looked down, and I saw the gray object that struck me as being similar in color to that from a lead bullet.